Would you believe the CDC and FBI have been caught red-handed in scrubbing data when it comes to defensive gun use statistics? We're going to dive into this. I know it's very hard to believe that they would do such a thing, but we're going to get to some of these details. As always, let me know your questions in the comment section. Share the video. So here we go. The story was broken by The Reload thanks to a Freedom of Information Act request. They received a series of emails showing that 3 gun control activists worked closely with the CDC officials to remove references to a 1992 study that showed Americans used firearms for self-defense up to 2.5 million times a year, and I'm sure we can agree that that number has likely gone up drastically. Apparently, the 2.5 million figure was a problem with these folks, as it makes it more difficult for the gun control ideology to make their inaccurate claims that firearms are seldom used for self-defense. 2.5 million number needs to be killed, buried, dug up, killed again, and buried again, wrote a gentleman in an email to the CDC officials after their in-person meetings. It's highly misleading, they're saying, regarding that report. It is used out of context, and I honestly believe it has zero value, even as the outlier points in an honest defensive gun use discussions. Originally sticking to their guns and refusing to remove the statistics, the Centers for Disease Control later acquiesced to these gun control advocates' requests and ultimately removed the data. They're planning to update the fact sheet in early 2022 after the release of new data. So, take it down, put it back up after the necessary revisions have been made. The revelation that the CDC has removed the statistics didn't sit well with some lawmakers. Last year, 5 U.S. senators basically complained, and it's making some traction. Senators wrote, "We write with growing concern and disappointment that the revelation the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention succumbed to pressure from gun control organizations to delete references to a commissioned study from the CDC's website that detailed defensive gun use estimates. The CDC prides itself on being science-based, data-driven service and protects the public's health. However, censorship action taken by the CDC has the exact opposite effect of that goal. The senators were particularly critical that the information had been removed for political purposes rather than scientific ones." I think we're kind of seeing a trend, maybe regarding a variety of topics. What are we allowing? CDC is just aligning itself with the gun control advocacy groups. The Reload is saying that we are their tool and we will do their bidding, and that's not what the government agencies should do. When asked for a response by this magazine, an employee with the CDC news media branch said, "The wide variability in the defensive gun use numbers from multiple sources indicated a very wide range of 60 to 2.5 million times per year based on reports from the 90s. CDC determined that such a wide range is not easily understandable and may be outdated. CDC removed both numbers, the low and high estimates, from a fact sheet and acknowledged that additional research is necessary to understand defensive gun use, prevalence, frequency, circumstances, and their outcome." So basically the response is, to get an average, the high and low numbers should be ignored. Unfortunately, this isn't the first time that they have done that, suppressing the numbers on defensive gun use, as it has been pointed out in multiple reports since the late 90s that the CDC conducted its own gun study. The results indicated that there are likely more than 1 million such uses each year. However, the study was never released and kept secret until decades later. It was, of course, leaked. Now, we also read that the FBI, the FBI has also had their hands dabbled in such loveliness, and we're going to get into some of that as we move along, guys. You know, we all know that there is a lack of trust right now for what we're being told from all the branches of government. And I think it's pretty sad that the American people feel that way. We shouldn't, although it's normal, it's natural. But it just seems like the numbers have been exacerbated. The CDC is not the only federal agency that committed such a breach of trust last year. Earlier in 2022, the FBI grossly underreported the number of times armed citizens had stopped mass public shootings. Folks, we must remain diligent. You should continue tuning into this this channel, as every day I bring to you these lawmakers and entities that are proposing additional assaults and attacks on the Second Amendment. And the only thing we can do is be informed, be active, and ultimately be responsible, well-armed Americans. I'm going to end this video with some pew-pews you may like. We shall see. Let me know your thoughts. Remain safe. We'll move nice and slow. Not wrong. Left!